close my eyes, when I close my eyes, I can hear her worried voice saying, don't let 'em move the graves. Well, Mama used to sell our land, said she never would. When they bought the farms all around her, she held out as long as she could. The men came to her house to pressure her once more. She wouldn't sign the papers until they swore. Don't let 'em move the graves. Don't let 'em move the graves. There'll be no rest tonight. She haunts me in my dreams. When I close my eyes, when I close my eyes, I can hear her worried voice saying, don't let 'em move the graves. Topsoil is turned under, trees are all bulldozed. The hills are gone with my childhood home, they've stripped all the coal. There's only dying flowers and a veteran's flag waving, stuck in the dirt above those who are still living. Don't let 'em move the graves. Don't let 'em move the graves. There'll be no rest tonight. She haunts me in my dreams. When I close my eyes, when I close my eyes, I can hear her worried voice saying, don't let 'em move the graves. My family was four farmers, worked this land for 100 years. Buried in that ground is their blood, sweat, and tears. Don't let 'em move the graves. Don't let 'em move the graves. There'll be no rest tonight. She haunts me in my dreams. When I close my eyes, when I close my eyes, I can hear her worried voice saying, don't let 'em move the graves. Don't let 'em move the graves. Don't let 'em.
Hey everybody, let me know you're on here. Let me know if you're here. I'll wait just a few minutes to see if anybody's going to jump on. I'm not doing it the same way we did last week, so just bear with me. Hey Cindy. Glad you're here. It's going to be a little bit more difficult for me to show you stuff tonight than it was last time, but that program kept freezing up, so I just want to make sure we don't do that this week. So and also, if you have any questions, as before, if you just post them in the comment and we'll try to look them up while we're here. But I did want to start this week. Next week we'll probably try to do some of Mahala's family, but this week I wanted to show you the documents that I have for John C. While he was in the war. That's one of the things I wanted to show you. So I'm going to move this and flip it. I'm hoping it works okay. So there's our family tree, as usual. And I'm going to go to John, and I'll try to zoom in as best I can holding this camera like this. Everybody can hear me okay, I'm assuming? Is the sound okay? Somebody let me know. I don't know. I'm trying to watch on one device and video with the other one, so if you see something you want to look at, let me know. Okay, thanks. Something I also wanted to tell you about on Ancestry, as far as viewing records versus index. I don't remember if we talked about that the first night. But if you have we're in an ambulance. If you have a record versus an index, you want to, the index is just like a listing of, just like in a book, when you go to the back and look at the index. That's what an index is on Ancestry also. You always want to try to look for the actual record. So that was one thing that I did want to say about that. Here's where, this is a record, and it is John and the U.S. Civil War soldiers, 1861 to 1865. You can see that up there. And it lists him as being, the side he was on was Confederate. He was enlisted in Kentucky, 10th Regiment, Kentucky Cavalry, Company F. He was a private. But the ones I wanted to really show you are these. I got these off Fold 3. If anybody is on Fold 3, you can look these up there. Let me show you this one first. This one shows where he was in Camp Chase as a prisoner. He was, I'm just going to assume, hey Michelle. Is it Michelle? Hey Melanie. You want to come on camera with me? Anybody want to come on camera with me? Yay. I can invite you. Okay, this is the actual document where he was in Camp Chase. I know these are not as good as they were last week, but like I said, that program just kept freezing up. So let me find him and then I'll zoom in for you. Okay, you want to join? Yes. Hang on. Let me figure out how to do it. It says it's adding you. I don't know if you have to accept it or how that actually works. But I'm gonna keep looking for this while you join. This is an alphabetical list. Here he is. An alphabetical list of prisoners of war at Camp Chase, Ohio. So he has actually been captured, and he's in Camp Chase. There's his name, John C. Branham. And it just gives the page that he's on. Okay, and these documents from Fold 3 are what I wanted to show you tonight. It said no answer from you, Michelle. I think your name's Michelle. Okay. Here is another record, and I have no idea what this place is called. I don't know. I have I have no idea how to say that. So this is also this says Knoxville, Tennessee. Let me find him. I don't know if these are in alphabetical order or not. There he is. There. It looks like he was in Hawkins, Tennessee. That's where Mahala was from. Let me see what this, that's where it says he was captured. I'm not sure if that's the right one or not, because let's go back to this fold 3 stuff. And I am going to show you in just a few minutes Mahala's pension record. Maybe this is the right one. Nope. I thought I saved it as a picture, but I guess I didn't. 1900, Kentucky Birth Records, land grant. Remember I showed y'all the land grant the other day on Facebook? I don't know if anybody knows anything about the land grant, or if you're in Pike County and can go to the courthouse and look. It's in book number 67. We might be able to get some more information out of that about where that land was located. I'm looking, y'all. Okay, maybe this is it. Okay, these are it. It's on fold 3. I actually joined fold 3 the other night so I could show these to you. I thought it was signed in. Okay. This is, if you can see this is John C. Branham, and this is the actual, his actual, the papers that they would fill out when, like monthly, they would get a card filled out saying where, if they were there or not. So this lists him as a private. He's in Company C, French's Battalion, Virginia Infantry. And these are his card numbers. And this is the first one. Can you guys see it okay? I don't know how you go live either. It just said to invite you. And I hit invite, and then it said waiting on you, Michelle. I don't know. Okay. This says roll of prisoners of war captured by U.S. forces serving in District of Eastern Kentucky. And then it says roll dated headquarters District of Eastern Kentucky, Louisa, Kentucky, where captured. See, this says Pike County. So I'm not sure if that other John Branham is right on that one list. There's no remarks on this one. His next card says the same battalion, John C. Branham, Private Company C, arrested where, this says Piketon, when April 15th, 1863. And then it also goes on to say received at Camp Chase, Ohio, when April 27th. So he was captured April 15th, and then April 27th is when he arrived in Camp Chase. Does anybody know what that word is? Where? I'm not sure what that word even says. And then by whose order? Lieutenant Colonel Eastman, I think. But this gives John's description. He's 5'8" tall, and he's 45 years old. He has blue eyes, and I'm not sure what kind. I don't know if that says light hair, fair hair, complexion light, maybe. Date of departure, May 13th, 1863. Remarks exchanged. So they're exchanging him. Let's see where he goes. This also says the same thing. French's, Virginia, John C., Private, Company C. So it's the same person. Roll of prisoners of war, paroled at Camp Chase, Ohio, May 13th, 1863, and forwarded to City Point, Virginia for exchange. Now, I'm not very good on, I wish Steve Fleming was on here. He may know, or someone else, but it does give where he was captured and the date he was captured, but there's no remarks. I don't know what happened at this when he was exchanged. I don't know for what. So somebody else that may know that may post on here later. Let me see. Cindy, you've been looking for information on Ulysses Grant Branham. At the end of this, I will show you. I'll see if I can look him up. If you know any more details about him, post those in the comments for me real quick. So like maybe a birthplace or parents or who he was married to or something like that. Okay, here's Mahala's pension. And you all may have seen this, but there was one thing that I wanted to show you on here. Remember, let me flip so you can see me for a second. Remember when, I don't know if it was the first video or the second one, and I said, I don't know where to look. Okay. So the first video or the second one, I said, make sure you go and look at the document, the actual document, because sometimes things get transcribed incorrectly. Well, this is an example of that. Because if you look on her document, this is the transcription. Miss Mahala Branham, application date, May 26, 1905, Dickinson, Virginia. Her birth year is 1820, Hawkins County, Tennessee. She is 85 years old, spouse John C. Branham. Marriage place, this right here is what's transcribed wrong. Hager County, Kentucky. I don't even think there's a Hager County, but let's view the record. And then we're going to click on the image, and this is very hard to read. You all may be able to read it better than I can. Application of the widow. I, Mahala Branham, do hereby apply for, under the Act of the General Assembly of Virginia, approved April 3rd, I think. I'm not going to read all that, but you can see that you can make out that this says they resided at Osborne's Gap in the county Dickinson. I am the widow of John C. Branham, who was a soldier. Then it also says this is the regiment that he was in. Let me back out of it a little bit. So now this gives his colonel, and I can't hardly make out the writing. So, but down here it says, I'm sorry this is moving around so much. The other program was better, but John C. Branham died April 1st, 1905, with, I think this is rheumatism and old age. Then down here on her application. It says John C. Branham. Oh, that's what I just read. Then these are the questions they ask her. What is your age? Answer, 85 years. Where were you born? Answer, Hawkins County, Tennessee. How long have you resided in Virginia? Answer, 60 years. I don't know what this may say something or 60 years, but I'm not sure, but it says 60 years. How long have you resided in the city or county of your present residence? 25 or 28 years, maybe. Your husband's full name? Answer, John C. Branham. So again, that's confirmation of his middle initial. When and where were you married and by whom? This is where it said Hager County. I was married in Floyd County, Kentucky. Been married 67 years. Was married by a man and this is probably the name. Let me turn it sideways and see. Oh, it's not gonna let me. I don't know who married them, but I'll post that and maybe somebody can make it out. If anybody knows, just chime in. Let's see. Number 7. When and where as near, it might be, Debbie, I could probably do it better. And if I just screenshot it, sometimes I can enlarge it better there and make it out too. And for some reason, I'm thinking we have their marriage record, but I couldn't find it before I went live. So if anybody has that, you can, I'm pretty sure, yeah, you can post pictures in the comments. So, when and where as near as you can state did your husband die and from what cause? Answer, in Dickinson County, Virginia. She didn't give a cause, but she did up at the top. Have you been married since the death of your said husband? No. Where and with whom do you reside? My daughter. What property, real, personal, or mixed, do you own? Answer, not any. What assistance do you receive and what income have you from any source? Not any. If your husband died since the war, please state where he died and, if possible, the names and addresses of the attending physician. Answer, in Dickinson County, Virginia. Had no doctor. Give the names and addresses, if possible, of 2 comrades in arms of your deceased husband. Answer, your guess is as good as mine. Maybe somebody else can make that out. Seems like I could make this one out. Abraham Mullins, maybe, Clintwood, Virginia. Give the names and addresses of 2 persons who are familiar with the circumstances of your husband's death. This is somebody more. Mossy Moore, maybe. And this is and this may be Rector Killian of Osborne Gap, Virginia. If your husband died since the war, please state whether his death resulted from wounds received in the war or from disease. I think this says from emphysema, but that might not be right. From emphysema in the Army or from something in the Army. and old age. Give as near as you can the nature of the wound or the character of the disease from which your husband died. That does say rheumatism and old age. And then, is there any camp of Confederate veterans in the city or county of your residence? Yes. Is there anyone living? Is there anyone living the residence and address of whom is known to you? I'm struggling, y'all. Either comrade or otherwise, who has knowledge of your husband's service and of the cause of his death? Yes. And there's that Mossy Moore and Abraham Mullins. And then this down here is just where the deputy signed it. She did not sign her name, so it was just an X from what I could tell. So that's her application for the pension. That was in 1905, and she passed in 1912. So I am assuming that she received some assistance after that. And let's see, I wanted to show you. I think people have posted this newspaper article. This is where we actually got John's picture from. None of us had ever seen it, and it actually says John Calhoun, I believe. Oh, no, this is a different one. This is a different one than the picture. So John C. Branham had a remarkable career, and there again, the spelling is incorrect. We've all seen Branham, Branham, Brannum. Don't get caught up on that. So, death of the oldest man in Dickinson County occurs at Osborne Gap. A correspondent writing from Osborne Gap says John C. Branham of this place died on Monday at the age of 90 after a brief illness. He was the oldest person in this Dickinson County. And here's where it says his full name. John Calhoun Branham was born on Copper Creek, Scott County, Virginia in 1815. When he was 6 years old, his father, William Branham, moved to Floyd County, Kentucky. So he was 6 years old, they moved to Floyd County, but after a short stay there, he returned to Virginia. The subject of this sketch married Mahala Mosley of Floyd County, Kentucky, who survives him at the ripe old age of 85. They reared a large family. In his younger days, there were no railroad trains, and he made several trips to Richmond with hog drovers, making the round trip in about a month. One of these trips, he called upon the governor in the interest of a man who was serving a life sentence from Russell County in the penitentiary, but he did not remember which one of the chief executives was in the chair at the time of his visit. He enlisted in the Confederate Army in the spring of 1861 and served in Nathaniel Menifee's command. He was captured at Pikeville, Kentucky by Colonel John Dills, and that man's name was on one of those cards, I believe, and sent to Camp Chase, where he stayed 3 weeks. When he was exchanged, going into Colonel J.M. French's command, he was in several important engagements and always won distinction by his daring and bravery. His, in some respects, has been a remarkable career. Let me see. I think that's all. Yeah, that's all of that. So let me go back here because I do think I have the in the gallery, the picture gallery. Yeah, I do. This is Dickinson County, Virginia beats the record for people who have lived an allotted time. That's John and that's Mahala, and it says that down here. Number 1 is John C. Number 2 is Mahala. So that's them. And we've seen her picture. I can't get this to move over. Okay. One minding her own business, one lady gives as reason for ripe old age. Man, if we'd all do that. Let me move this other way. This says Freeling, Virginia, February the 6th. It's 1904. That's the date on the paper. February 7th, but this is February 6th. According to population as compared to that of others, Dickinson County has its full quota of octogenarians, 10 of whose pictures are herewith presented. These 10 are living in the extreme west end of the county, next to the Kentucky border, and all are nestled in a small scope of country, the remotest not living more than 5 miles apart, while some of those intermediate are almost within a stone's throw of each other. So far as can be learned, there is only one other who has reached this age in the county, and that is William Counts, who lives in the East End. Let me scroll down here. Margaret Elam is the one that said she credits living a long life to minding her own business. The first 2 on the list are Mr. and Mrs. John C. Branham on Pound River near Osborne's Gap. Mr. Branham has passed about 90 milestones on the road of life, while his wife Mahala is close behind him. Uncle Johnny, as he is familiarly called, was reared in Scott County, Virginia. Again, that's confirmation of where he was from. Came to this section while a young man. He lived here and in Kentucky since. He served in the Confederate Army and was in several important battles. Mrs. Branham's maiden name was Mosley. She was reared in Floyd County. Now, I think that is all the documents that I have on John. I think this is his newspaper obituary. Let's see if I can. John C. Branham, Osborne's Gap, Virginia, April 6. John C. Branham of this place died Monday at the age of 90 after a brief illness. He was the oldest person in this county. He married Mahala Mosley of Floyd County, Kentucky, who survives him at the ripe old age of 85. They reared a large family. This basically says the same thing that the other one. I don't think there's anything different in that, but it was just 2 separate articles. So, hi, Mike. Okay, so remember last week I read the article to you about Clifton, if you remember, and I was going to read the second part of that article. One thing I did want to show you real quick, somebody had asked me about books on the family, and am I froze? I do have a copy of this book somebody sent me. It's David Branham and his Descendants, and it's the one that Shelby Fleming Phillips wrote. Somebody asked me for her sources. I didn't see any. I didn't see any source list in here, but also it's a photocopy that someone sent me. So if it's in the original book, I'm not sure. I also have a photocopy of Branham's and Ken that someone sent me, and it's a photocopy. It's the one by Brenda Salyers, and she is a descendant of John Henry.
Branham. And I'll have to look and tell you Millie Branham, and I think that comes from John Henry. Also, we are trying to, I've had several people ask me, how do we connect to the Monacan Indian Nation? I don't know yet, but we're working on it. This is one book that I have. The Monacan Indian Nation of Virginia, The Drums of Life by Rosemary Clark Whitlock. And then I have this book that has a lot of Branhams in it, Strangers in Their Midst, and that's the free black population of Amherst County. It's probably backwards, but it does have a lot of Branhams in it. So I wanted to show you those. I am just spooling over here on this other device, so I don't know if you can see me or not. Okay. Let me get to this newspaper article real quick and read another section about Clifton. But everything seems to be froze up, so it's going to take me a minute. Sorry, guys. Okay, here it is. And this again is in the Mountain Eagle. The date on this article is April 6, 2022. And at the top of it, it says, note, Clifton Branham, the Letcher County native who became the last man executed by hanging in Wise County, Virginia, writes about Cumberland Mountain in a statement he penned shortly before he was put to death. Branham was referring to what is today known as Pine Mountain, more specifically the Pound Gap area. And this writer is Jaden Gibson. Again, I think I told you that last week. But there's three sections of this. And it says, Letcher County native Clifton Branham ran away from home when he was 12 years old and stayed with his brother's family in Johnson County. He returned to the area near Pound, Virginia 4 years later. His father had bought a piece of land and built a house on the top of Cumberland Mountain. Some of our kinfolk were living on the south of the Pound River, and I went by to see them, Clifton wrote, in the period leading up to his hanging. My uncle, Tandy Branham, was killed during the war. His widow had 7 children, and 3 of them were still at home. One of her daughters was Nanny, the sweetest girl I ever saw. She was the prettiest girl in the world, and we were the same age. After we spent several visits together, I decided I had to have her for my wife, or I'd surely die. Nanny's mother and brother objected to Clifton calling on his cousin, but they started slipping around and meeting secretly. I loved her as dearly as I did my own life, and she loved me, Clifton explained. Her mother wanted to hire someone to do some work around the place for a month, and I was a good worker. She said she would give me the job, and I saw it as an opportunity to be close to my sweet Nanny. Most of the time, her mother was gone when I went to work. Nanny was always there, and she would call me to eat at 11 o'clock. We sat and talked for a while after I ate, and then I'd return to work. Sometimes Nanny would come to where I was working, so I had a very happy time during that month of work. It was like I was living at the end of the rainbow, as they say. The time went by so fast. Before the month was over, it had passed. Clifton learned during this time the reason her mother didn't want him to court Nanny. There was a son of a well-to-do Dickinson County, Virginia farmer who was interested in her, and they thought he would be a much better match. Clifton and Nanny thought different. Nanny promised me that she would be mine forever, Clifton wrote. She said it was useless for them to try to get her to have someone else. When Clifton's month was finished, her mother said she was pleased with his work. It gave him the nerve to ask if she had any objections to them getting married. I'll tell you right now, Clifton Branham, you all are too young to get married, she replied. What are you going to do? Live out on the dusty road? I'll not agree to give her up, and you'd better not steal her. If you do, I'll have the law throw you in the Pound River with a millstone tied around your neck. You heard me, Clifton Branham. He don't listen. Clifton left without a favorable response, as he knew it was useless to try to talk to her any further. He later wrote while waiting in jail for his hanging to arrive that he was more determined than ever to take Nanny as his wife. The next day, Nanny's mom was gone most of the day, he wrote. She had her sister-in-law stay with Nanny. Later in the day, when her sister-in-law left, we found our chance to run away together. I felt as though I had captured the world. Nanny was a pure and perfect girl. After spending the night at the home of James Peck, they set out for the top of Cumberland Mountain where most of his family live. He worried that his father would not approve of what they had done. Dad made me feel a lot better when he said all was well, and we went home with him, Clifton wrote. In a few days, Nan's brother came with a remainder of her clothes and a message from her mother. She said she would never approve of us getting married. I've got Nanny, and I'll not give her up, Clifton replied. We are a perfect match, even though her mother doesn't think so. After 2 months, Nanny's mother sent for them. They went to Mr. Austin's on Pound River and asked him to see her on their behalf. He fixed everything up for us, Clifton wrote. I went to Wise and got my license and got married when I returned. That was 23 years ago when I was 16. We returned to my father's, and my happiest days on earth began. We were together all the time, and when I had to be gone, she would greet my return with a kiss. A year later, we were blessed with a sweet baby. Clifton and Nanny moved back to Johnson County in Kentucky, where he still had family living. The following spring, they took a boat to Pikeville on the Big Sandy River, where he got a job working on the Levisa Fork of the river. Still later, they moved to Shelby Creek before moving back to Cumberland Mountain. We were together 8 years, during which we had 4 children, 3 girls and 1 boy, Clifton reminisced. I had been a tough boy, even though the Lord had been knocking at my heart. Nan belonged to the church even before I met her. If I had been as good a boy as she was a woman, I would be a lot better off. I took up making moonshine along with 2 other men. One is dead now, and the other lives on the south side of Cumberland Mountain. We did very well for a while, but the revenue officers started getting peskier and peskier. We finally decided to move it to the head of the Kentucky River. The new location was in a remote area of Letcher County, but after some delays, they were making as much of the illicit liquor as before. Our still was near Mark Venter's, and we often went to his house where he picked the banjo, fiddle, and dance, Clifton recalled. We thought we were having the time of our lives. Bad times were lurking around the corner, though. Clell Adams married a stepdaughter of Mr. Venters, he continued. Clell was killed by a friend of mine by the name of Rant Smallwood. Rant told me he got $100 and a .38 Smith & Wesson pistol for killing Clell Adams. We got along all right until he wanted to kill Franciski, who was also a friend of mine. Don't know how to pronounce that. I knew Rant was wrong. Another friend told me he thought Rant was getting dangerous. I knew that was true. This other friend said it would be a good thing if someone killed Rant. Clifton was young and easily led to do the bidding of others. I decided to kill myself, Clifton admitted in his writings. I went to Mark Vanover's house to get a gun, but being asked by a woman what I wanted with the gun, I told her I wanted to kill Rant Smallwood. She took the gun away from me, saying, "Don't do that." So I took my Spencer rifle and .44 caliber cap and ball Remington instead and went looking for Rant. I left the still and took to the woods to Blaze Branch, where I stayed the night with Wes Sowards. The next morning, I took through the brush again to the mouth of Dorton, where I found Rant working on a church house. Clifton waited for a good opportunity to ambush Rant. Finally, a young man by the name of Fleming came to me, he wrote. He had been hiding from the law. I asked him to have Rant come because I wanted to talk to him. Rant motioned for me to come to him instead because he was working. When I did, it ended up with me spending the night. Twice that next day, I went squirrel hunting with Rant and looked for an opportunity to waylay him, but he was suspicious of me and didn't give me a chance. They slept in the same bed, and Rant told him that he dreamed of a large snake that had gotten on him, and he fought to get it off. I knew I was that snake, Clifton penned. Later that day, they decided to go and see Wes Sowards' daughters. Before leaving, Clifton claimed and oiled his gun with Rent watching him the whole time. On the way to see the girls, I would lag behind, he wrote. But Rent would say, "Walk up here beside me, Clifton, because I believe you want to shoot me." After supper, the Sowards went to bed, leaving us with the girls talking in the kitchen. At about 8 or 9 o'clock, I started to leave and walked around the house. I saw a small hole cut through the house, and when I looked, I could see Rant sitting in a chair leaning up against the wall. I put the muzzle of my gun through the hole and pulled the trigger. Poor Rant jumped to his feet and then fell straight on his face. "Clifton Branham has killed me," he screamed. Clifton left the area immediately and went back to his whiskey still. News came the following day that someone had shot Rant Smallwood and that he was hanging on to life by a thread. I went across Cumberland Mountain into Virginia when I heard that I was accused of shooting Rant, Clifton recalled. They said his friends were looking for me, so I went to the store and bought powder, caps, and lead, filling my pockets full of bullets. Branham traveled to Tazewell County, Virginia, using the fictitious name George Jones. After several months, Granville Cox came and said Rant had survived the shooting and that things had settled down. Clifton knew it wasn't safe enough for him. I decided to return home to Nanny, Clifton continued. During my travels, I fell in love with many girls, widows and married women, and they with me. I always passed myself off as a single man. And unfortunately for Clifton, it resulted in continual scrapes and eventually his hanging. So that's all the second part of the story. I love Clifton's stories. But next time, let me see if I can find that. We are going to do, I am going to look at Mahala's family. So Cindy, you've been looking for Ulysses Grant Branham. Let me see if I actually have him in my tree already. Let's see. Research. I don't know if it'll. Ulysses Grant. Okay. I have a. Is this him, Cindy? I have a Ulysses Grant. I'd say that's Lice Branham. That's how you pronounce it. If this is the right one. If this is him, he's the son of James Wilburn Branham and Julia Fitzpatrick, married to Henrietta Vinson. And if you can let me know if that's the right one, I'll see if I can. I have him in the 1880, 1900, 1910, 1920, 30, 40 census. If that is him, he died in 46 in Lawrence County. So you can let me know. Oh, somebody wanted to come online. Tracy, are you wanting to come online, Trace? I'm adding you. Okay, guys, that's all I have for tonight. And like I said, next week we'll look at Mahala some. I think her story is very interesting, and I do want to talk some about her. I don't think Tracy meant to come online. She declined me. How rude. If anybody else has anything else, does anybody have anything else they'd like to discuss or want to know? I can't really tell who's on. Tracy, Debbie, Michelle, Beverly, Sherry. I will try to print that out or post it so y'all can print it out, the application for her pension, Haley's pension, so maybe y'all can make some of that out yourself. I'll wait just a second, see if anybody has anything else. That's okay, Tracy. Did you want to come on? I don't know if you can turn your camera off. Turn it away from you if you want to come on and point toward the wall if you don't want people to see you. I think about turning mine away every once in a while too. And I did get I did look on Amazon, and it looks like some of the books may ship out Saturday, but I can't promise that until I actually get the shipping confirmation. So again, if anybody wants to order a book, they're welcome to. Just send me a message. Okay, guys, nobody else has anything. I'm going to hop off. I thank you all for joining me. I always love this. My mom says it doesn't interest her. So, yeah, but I would like to have some guests on. So if any of y'all put your hair up in a ponytail and join me next week, maybe we can talk about Mahala. We'll get some stuff together. But now I can't remember who asked me about loss. Branham, Ulysses Grant. Anyway, good night, everybody. Thank you. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.